Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, I guess, just the paranormal and the afterlife and ghosts,
And
especially. I think that was the main topic we are
supernatural.
going with.
Yeah. So
So, should we start off looking at the video evidence first, or
video evidence. Ooh, okay.
not sure do you believe, I guess, in ghosts and stuff like that?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of like over time. I would say my like the it's changed. I would say over time, right?
Okay.
Uh,
So, like, you started off thinking that there were, and then you kind of just stopped believing, or the other way around?
uh, when I was a kid, I mean, I guess as kids we're very impressionable. So I was, yeah, I was, you know, let's just say in my family I had a few, well, particular one uncle, but actually a few people that were kind of like our family friends who used to put on these things like, the Ouija board at night or do these
Oh,
crazy,
okay, yeah.
like these
Oh, so you used
crazy.
to actually play with that?
Oh yeah, yeah, and well, I never really did, but I watched people do it. I remember one time, and this was freaky. This was in the God, I don't know how old I was. It was in Poland. We were camping, and in Poland, like back in the day, at least when you were camping, it wasn't like you show up to an RV park or a campground with all these lights and everything. No, like you went in the middle of a forest where there's nobody around, and you just like you're not even sure you're supposed to be there. You just hack like a little spot and you set up a tent, right? So,
Yeah.
so I remember we had like 2 or 3 tents set up, and my uncles were there, my cousins, everybody, and then at night, we do the campfire, and it's just pitch black, like around. You just all you see is this like the trees, and then it just goes to darkness. And then one of my uncles is like, oh yeah, let's do this. It wasn't quite a Ouija board, but it was something like he took a piece of paper, I think, and he just wrote like the different letters and stuff like that, and then he put, I forgot, his key or something like that.
Oh, so this is like a homemade Ouija board
Kind
then.
of, yeah, yeah. And then, we all we're holding hands and we're all like, and I'm a kid. I don't know how strange. Maybe I was 7, 8 years old. I've never seen anything like it. So I didn't know what to expect, I guess. And then, yeah. And then I just remember that he starts doing the whole seance or whatever you call it. And, can you hear us? And this and that, and you're holding the hands and thing. And then suddenly, something like moves, and he's like, my God, look, the key is moving. And we're all like, look. And I remember I just had like shivers on my spine, as a kid. And I'm like, what the fuck, like, how is that moving? And I'm like, right there, we're in a circle and he's making it move. I mean, I'm convinced to this day there wasn't no ghost, but he made it
Oh, so
move.
he never let you in on the joke.
Oh no, he never told us. No. So this thing, and then not only that, but what was it that he made? Because we had a guest, I think it was, yeah, my mom, I think, invited like a friend from work, and he, like, nobody really knew him and kind of, knew like basics about him. But then he started like asking the ghost, can you tell us about our guest today? This and that. And like this personal information that even this guy was like, what the, like, what the, how do you know this stuff? So afterwards, I remember I was like rationalizing this for like months after that, like, because I'm very inquisitive. Let's just put it about life. I want to find out how things work and how life works. And I was like, how the hell did he know this? And then finally, like after months, I was like, I mean, maybe our guest, right, my mom's coworker, maybe he was in on it. I mean, he told him. I mean, like, I didn't know what was the other explanation. I don't know, but how he made the thing move, I don't know. And then the weirdest thing was that what was it? He had somebody sit, because it was like this little table, right, that we had set up, and he put it on there, and then I remember it was like right next to the campfire, and then he had somebody, because the table started like lifting, and he had somebody like grab it or something, and they're like, and then eventually I think it was my uncle stood up and put all of his weight on one corner of the table, and the table still lifted up. So then I was like thinking, I remember after that, again months after, I'm like, how did he do the whole part of it? It's gotta be fake. So how did he made the table move? And then I was like, maybe my uncle was in on it too. Literally by the end of it, I
I feel
thought,
like he went to a lot of trouble to freak you guys out.
no. So by the end of it, I'm like thinking maybe my uncle literally was in with all the adults, and only just us kids were like the dumb ones going, we couldn't sleep that
Most
day.
likely, because I think I feel like that would be funny to do. Like, like if you had like a bunch of kids just to like plan some elaborate thing that you're all in on and pretend like you're not.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that's what I'm convinced. Like to this day, that was the only way. I guess it could have been done. I don't know. I mean,
so you don't believe at all that that could have been.
Well, so I'll tell you. Yeah. So at that
real.
moment, I believed it. I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, there's no, I kind of, even as a kid, I started as a skeptic, but then I was like, "No, no, no, no. That this was like it felt real, right, that night." And then after that, months later, I'm trying to find like, no, but it couldn't be. So what could it be? And blah, blah, blah. All these like rationalizing it, and then finally, I don't know. I think with just time, I was like, I don't know, man. For all I know, my uncle has some supernatural powers. I don't know, whatever. Who gives a fuck, kind of thing. Like I was like, better left it, leave it unanswered. So, what about you?
I think I'm pretty much like the same as you. I think I'm just like I'm skeptical, but I mean, it sounds like from what you're saying, you kind of more believed it when you're a kid, which makes sense because I think most kids believe in like pretty much anything. I mean, we're brought up to believe in all kinds of crazy crap, like Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and all that stuff. So obviously, I think growing up, it's easy to believe in like things like ghosts. I think I'm skeptical, but I'd be more leaning towards I don't think that there's a such thing as like any kind of ghosts or paranormal things. But I'm not sure. I wouldn't rule it out though.
Now, have you seen something in your life that kind of like maybe then you don't necessarily? I'm saying I guess you don't believe in it, but you don't know how the hell that was possible, kind of thing.
I had a few things, but the thing is like you could always kind of explain away these sort of things. You know what I mean? Like one example is when I was like a teenager. I remember I was like staying at my parents' house, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I felt like when you wake up and it feels like something woke you up, not just like you're just waking up randomly. Like it just feels like something like kind of.
What time was it?
Oh, it was really late because everybody was sleeping in the house. Like it was probably like maybe 2, 3, something like. And I was just kind of lying there for a minute, and all of a sudden,
sorry to interrupt. And that was where in Canada?
Oh yeah. Okay. That was here. Yeah, and it just felt like something like jumped on my back, right? Like a person. I honestly like when it was happening, I thought it was a person because we had actually had like some break-ins in the area, and there were like home invasions and stuff in the news. So I had assumed that it was just somebody who was like robbing our house, and whatever it was, it grabbed like both my wrists because I was like sleeping like face down, and it felt like something was grabbing my wrists. And then I heard something basically say in my ear, like it was asking me for like where money and alcohol was in the house.
Like whispering?
Not really whispering. It just sounded like just a regular person talking. Like as if somebody leaned down and was just like asking me for where the money and the alcohol was in the house, like where we keep it, like if they keep it downstairs. But for some reason, I wasn't able to actually like talk or move. Right.
Okay.
So,
and then
basically,
but then you woke up or something? I don't know.
No, but see, this is the thing, and this is where it gets weird. So I basically, when I asked for where it was in the house, if it was downstairs, I basically like nodded, and I'm still thinking this is like a person that's trying to rob the house. So I'm just trying to get them off me. So the second they actually get up, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna count to 3, because like I felt them like get up. I'm like, and I'm gonna like basically jump up, and we're gonna fight. And I did. I counted to 3, and I did that, and there was nobody in my room. And I'm thinking, okay.
Were you like, did you feel like tenseness in your body or something? Like, were you like, because you literally couldn't get up like before?
Yeah, but all of a sudden when whatever was got off me, I felt like I could move again. Like I just felt like.
But did you feel like a weight on you? Like somebody was actually.
Yeah, it literally felt like at the time I was convinced someone was on top of me and they were trying to like subdue me type thing. And like essentially it was going to be like a home invasion. So my whole thing was, if whatever happens, like if I'm going to get killed or whatever, I'm not going to just like die like a bitch. Like I'm going to fight this person. So I counted to 3. I flung, like, cause I had like covers up to like my shoulders. I flung them off and I turned around. There's nobody there. And then I thought about it. I'm like, our stairs in that house used to be like really like loud.
Uh-huh.
Right. And I didn't hear anybody go down the stairs. Like you can always hear when someone's coming up or coming down. And I'm like, wait a second, I didn't hear anybody go down the stairs. Like I felt this person get off me, but I never heard them go down the stairs, which is where they said they were gonna go. So I got up, I kind of looked around upstairs, looked around downstairs, and I'm like, there's nobody in this house.
Oh, so you were by yourself that day?
No, like my parents, they were still in their room sleeping.
Okay.
My sister was there at the time too. She was in her room sleeping. There's nobody else in the house. Like I looked around, like there was for sure nobody else there. And then like at the same time, if it was somebody that was in the house, they would have, you know, been there, right? Like when I got up, because I got up like 3 seconds after they got up. So that's when I realized that it could have been something more. But when I actually looked into it, like when I got older, I found there's actually something called, I don't remember the name of it. It's like sleep paralysis.
Ah, okay. See, that's the reason why
I
I was.
wonder if that's what it was. Like,
That's why I was asking you those
right?
questions, because that's what it sounded like to me. Because guess what? I used to have it. I haven't had it in years, but I used to have it regularly as a kid, and that freaked the living shit out of me, dude. Like when that happened, and that's why I was asking you like all these questions, because it sounded to me like you had a sleep paralysis.
Right. But then the only thing that threw me off is like somebody talking to me. Like, is that normal? Like when that happens?
It can.
Did
I
that
mean,
just happen to you?
I think it's the imagination, because I'll tell you. To me, it was. It started when I was a kid, but basically I didn't know, right? So for the longest time, I didn't even know that there was such a thing possible. And basically, I guess for those people who don't know, sleep paralysis is technically, you know, when you go to sleep, your muscles and everything, like your body releases these certain chemicals to relax you, right? So it basically paralyzes your muscles. So this way you're not moving, you're not straining, you can really like relax your body, and you can, you know, I guess regenerate, right, as you're sleeping. But then what happens is during sleep paralysis, and it usually happens to people who sometimes tend to sleep with their eyes open, you know, like their eye inverts, but it's the eyelids are a little bit open. And I have that. Like multiple people said that sometimes like one of my eyes or both of my eyes are like slightly opened.
Yeah, I have family that has that, where like it almost looks like they're looking at you when they're sleeping.
Yeah. So to me, that's what the thing is. Like I sometimes have my eyes slightly open, and especially if there's like some light or something, and I start a thing. And what happens is you'll actually wake up, meaning you're mentally awake, and you can move your eyes, but your whole body is still paralyzed because of those chemicals that your body naturally releases. So you can't move your muscles. So it almost feels like somebody's either holding you or like you're chained or something. And like you're like, because I remember when I was a kid, I would get freaked out like so much, because I would like, you know, like straining like this, and I want to move my arm and I can't. It's like you can't, or get up or thing. And the worst was if I fell asleep like on my chest, right, on my stomach, and with like my face to the pillow or the bed, and then I'm like literally having problems breathing, like if I have, you know, sinuses or something,
Right.
and I'm trying to breathe, but here's like my face is pressed to the bed, and then you wake up and just freaks, really used to freak the hell out of me. And I used to think that they were just nightmares, right? And then, you know, your mind can play all kinds of tricks because you're imagining. And because I never heard of this thing, and I had the worst nightmares like that, like as a kid, just horrible. And it wasn't until and I remember the worst was actually with my father passed away. I was 19 or 20 at the time, and I remember it was like a few days after the funeral. I was I was already living on my own, but I was, you know, like nearby, and I came to see my mom in her house, you know, and she was, you know, my dad was gone, so she was kind of felt lonely. She's like, "Oh, just stay here, stay." I'm like, "Oh, okay." She gave me something to eat. It was like middle of the day, just, you know, you're feeling lousy, you know, just lose your father, and and then afterwards, like I ate this and that. I just had no energy, and I fell asleep on the sofa. And all I remember, dude, it was like the freakiest thing, because I fell asleep on the sofa, and then literally I start like my dad is like, somebody goes, and like, Tom, like pissed off, and he's like yelling at me, and holy fuck, dude, like I got like, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like my dad's dead, and, you know, and I hear him and this and that, and then I open my eyes, and I realize, okay, I was just sleeping, but no, now I'm awake. Now I'm awake and I want to like look, right? And I want to look and turn around because I hear him right behind me, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. This and that. Like he's pissed off, and I'm going, what the shit? The fuck? What the? You know, like it just completely freaked me
that's
out.
crazy.
Yeah, and I remember that moment. I was like, I gotta move, and it was just all of a sudden I suddenly like, it's like your body like wakes up, and I strained and like, and I woke up, turned around, and of course there was nobody there.
Right.
And
See,
I'm like,
sounds exactly like what happened to me. Yeah, that's so crazy. And I never heard of this till like last year when I was like watching like random ghost stories and stuff. And I heard a person that had a story like yours and like mine, where except for theirs, it was like a person that they would see, like this woman, this freaky looking woman that would like crawl across their floor and get on top of them. And she like, you know, like obviously it's like a ghost story, right?
Yeah.
But when I heard about that, I'm like, that sounds so much like my story. See, like, and that's the reason why I think I'm skeptical of a lot of stuff. Cause like you might think, you know, you see something or you hear something, and then, you know, somebody comes with a logical explanation, like what you just said. Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if that explains everything.
No, well, maybe not everything, but not that, like not that specifically,
but I guess maybe what happened to you, that thing.
Exactly. Like a lot of times there's like, not every time, but a lot of times there's an explanation. I feel like it just really depends on what you want to believe in. I feel like if you want to believe in ghosts and spirits in the afterlife, then you're going to convince yourself like what happened to me. If I was the type of person that I like believed in that stuff and I really wanted to, I would have taken that as, oh no, this for sure was like a ghost or a demon or something.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
For me, I'm like, well, I mean, it could be, but it also could have been something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, but I remember when after that experience, that's when I kind of started on my little journey and I started exploring other things, because I really believed like my dad just came and he was like pissed off because, and I think part of it was again my imagination playing, because my father, you know, my father used to be like, he was like this real tough guy kind of thing, and he used to, yeah, it was a few times where he got violent, you know, beat me up and stuff like that. But he was also at the same time a very loving father. Like it's hard to say, but like he had the extremes, you know, he was could be very good or could be fucking just turn into a monster kind of thing. But I do remember like because he died of cancer. So the last like year of his life, he knew he was dying, and, you know, doctors pretty much told him. So he was as he was going through the whole process, and I was there, you know, like every day, you know, or, you know, for like months, I used to drive him to the hospital for the chemotherapy and all that stuff. And then I remember and he did it all pretty gracefully. Like it was almost like he realized all these, like, I guess, mistakes he made in his life, things, and he was like, I gotta get better. This is, you know, my last chance. But I remember the very last few weeks, it was this weird thing, but it was like, you know, again, remembering him as a kid, you know, knowing how he could sometimes be, you know, like I remember one time he got really pissed off at this guy who was, we just came to Canada and we were like sharing an apartment with this other guy, and then my parents were living in another apartment. It was like this whole messed up situation. We didn't have anywhere to live, and we lived in this tiny little room above the store. And anyways, the guy who owned I think the place, he basically, my parents would like drop off food for us and do things like that. And he would just eat our food, drink our stuff, whatever thing. And he was kind of like telling me and my brother, like, shut up, kind of, you know, whatever. You're just staying here for free kind of thing. And my father got pissed off at him. And I didn't know, but I think he owed my father money. And that's why he did a favor for my dad and kind of said, okay, your kids can stay here while you guys are looking for an apartment. And my dad just came and like unleashed on this guy. You know, my dad used to practice boxing.
Yeah,
no, he like
that's what I was thinking. As soon as you said that, he went at the guy. I'm like, oh, that's
yeah. So he nearly killed the guy. Like I remember at the end, he punched him, this and that, and then he threw him down the stairs. And the guy, you know, he was in the hospital. They kept on asking him all this stuff. My dad kind of went into hiding, and then pretty much after that, we all thought like my dad is gonna have to like run away from Canada. Actually, turned out that guy was illegally in Canada. He ran back to Poland, and we never saw him again. But anyways, having that memory of my dad having like this, you don't bullshit with my dad, right? You know, and then seeing him as a dying man and seeing how he turned like completely around, and he was trying to be more gentle, more understanding. I was like, oh, okay. But then, like I said, the last few weeks before he passed away, he was, and it was like you could see like he was trying to control this frustration because again, here's a guy who his whole life he didn't ask anybody for help. He did everything he fucking wanted to do, all the stuff. He was this, ultimate, at least in my eyes, macho kind of guy. And then suddenly he couldn't do sometimes basic things like get up and go to the bathroom, or his, holding a glass, like his hand was shaking.
Does to people, it really like will break you down. Like it's horrible.
You watched your mom die, right, of cancer.
Exactly. And it's like you said, there's certain things that you're a proud person, and there's certain things that you wouldn't do, that you think you would never do, and that like you said, getting up and going to the bathroom sometimes, that's too hard for you to do. And that would be a hard thing to accept. I was thinking of it like while watching my mom go through it. I'm like, man, like I would have all these same feelings. It's tough.
Yeah. So what's it called? What do you call it? So watching my dad there, go through that and seeing him get like frustrated, it was kind of like, I mean, he wasn't nearly how he could have, like how I sometimes remembered him as a kid, but I do remember like these moments where, like I said, like a few weeks before he passed away, where he was just this frustration he had. And I think that's why when I had that sleep paralysis, and here I am thinking about my father, he just passed away, all these things going through my mind. And I'm constantly having this image of like the last few weeks where I just saw him always pissed off and like kind of, getting frustrated, but trying to control it. And I think it just kind of, again, my imagination went into a thing, because again, I wake up, I'm paralyzed, my mind's starting to like trying to make sense of it. And I can't, and this and that. And then I start thinking my dad. And then, I think I just, made up the whole voice. Like my dad was never there and nothing. Now, of course, I remember like once I managed to get up and suddenly like the thing, and I turned around, there was nobody there. And I started looking for my mom. My mom wasn't thing. And then it turns out my mom was out walking her dog. So when she came, there was nobody else to tell me like, okay, I didn't hear anything. So that made it even more, mysterious. But I was like, fuck, maybe he was there. It was just weird. That was a weird experience.
That's the thing. Like I said, it depends kind of on, your perspective on life, I guess, and the afterlife. Because I know some people that would tell you, oh, that for sure happened. And then I know some people that would, say that it was sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like
I
really know,
I
right?
still,
like,
I guess, I guess you don't know. But to me, I think it was sleep paralysis, because after that, that's when I began this whole journey of like learning about like these, like for example, what happened then, and I came in completely thinking, because again, at that moment I still didn't know about sleep paralysis. I was like, holy fuck, like I just saw my dad. I told my mom totally believed it. She's like, holy fuck, and then all this stuff, and then I remember it took me a few years, and we've heard different stories, different things. And then finally I came across, it was this guy who was talking about sleep paralysis. And I was like, he said that it was first people noticed it like during the Renaissance in Europe, like there were these stories again of ghosts and stuff. And it turns out it was sleep paralysis. And this one guy diagnosed it and all that stuff. And I started reading about it. And then, dude, I remember once I like found out all these different informations, like, I as much as I could about sleep paralysis. And I literally would do experiments after that. It got to a point where, like, I pretty much could control it.
It kept happening to you, right? Is that what you're saying?
It kept happening, but you know what? Because it's just, like I said, especially when you're sleeping with your eyes open. So then I did these experiments where if I put an actual, like, like a little, like something to cover your eyes.
Like those sleep masks.
Yeah, so even if my eyes open, all I would see is pitch black. I never had sleep paralysis.
Oh, okay.
But if I think also if I fell asleep in a room that had maybe where I didn't have my eyes covered, but that had a bit of light, even, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or if it was during the day, if I fell asleep, then I would have the sleep paralysis. And I started just doing like this process of elimination and experiments. And I remember finally and I started rationalizing, thinking, so this is probably what's happening. I'm just paralyzed because my body's still asleep, but my eyes open and my mind's like, what the fuck's going on, kind of thing. And I remember one time, I mean, it was literally like an experiment, but I did it to a point where I basically fell asleep, And then and I had all these lights on and this and that, like on my face and stuff. And I remember, again, I'm a very inquisitive person. I want to find out about how everything works. And it got to a point where we could say scientifically tested it by doing experiments like that.
And it worked.
And I remember because I would play something. I played like a movie or something that I had going on the screen, and something that I've never seen before. And I literally would open my eyes, and the first reaction was still like, oh my God, like I'm, because it feels just fucking weird that you're paralyzed. Right. But then I'm telling myself, okay, this is just sleep paralysis. Nothing's happening to you. Just relax. And I literally calmed myself down. I didn't struggle anymore. I didn't try to like forcefully move my muscles and stuff, and like move my arms or legs. And then I literally remember I was watching the screen, and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. So try to remember this and that. And then I remember a few times after that, because I relaxed my body, my body, I could literally feel like this tingling sensation, and I could start feeling my fingers moving and this and then I'm like, holy shit, I woke up fully, like with my eyes open. And a few times I was so tired that I went back to sleep. And then when I woke up normally, I would look at the tape that I was playing, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I saw. So I wasn't imagining it. I was literally awake, but when my body was asleep. And over that process, I kind of, I mean, I hadn't had it happen to me in years. I think the last time.
Do you sleep? Do you like continue? Did you continue using like a mask, I'm assuming?
No. So I just sleep normally now. But I do remember there was like a few times where, like when I first met my wife, which was, it's probably going to be like 8-9 years ago. And I had a few moments like where I had that, and then my wife noticed. Like she would like, wake me up, and she's like, Tom, what's going on? And then when she started shaking me, and then I was like, oh, okay, it was just sleep paralysis.
How did she notice? Were your eyes just like darting back and forth or something?
She just said that like sometimes she would look at me like because she would wake up because I started like, it's like I wanted to talk, but all I would make sounds is like that, because again I can't move my muscles. And she said like sometimes it felt like I was twitching. And then one time the lights, she turned on the lights and she could see that my eyes were a little bit open. And she's like, yeah, it was very freaky. I remember she told me. And I was like, sorry, but don't worry, I'm not going to murder you in the middle of the night. And I think
that makes sense what you're saying. Like your eyes being open kind of triggers you to wake up, but not fully wake up. But I wonder, because I don't have that, like where I sleep with my eyes open. It only ever happened to me one time.
Now, maybe, I have heard over the years, like I said, different cases where different people it's brought on because of certain other things, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it could be something else that's stringing in you. But if you start literally doing process of elimination, you'll soon figure out. And then you'll also, but the biggest thing for me was to not freak out. Mm-hmm. Like literally, now I've gotten so good that even in my sleep, I still have sometimes bad sleeps, but like a nightmare. But even then, if I have a nightmare, it's like almost like I realize that, I'm just still sleeping, and let's just fucking have fun with this kind of thing. You know what I mean? Right. I don't get as like pulled into it as I used to as a kid, right? So I think.
Well, now you're used to it. You've had a ton of experience. You did experiments, so I mean, at this point, you should be used to it, right? You did it a bunch of times, so
yeah.
That's really interesting.
But it's funny when you were saying that I'm like, it sounds like sleep paralysis, but I mean, what do I know, right?
It's funny that you actually know about it, because like anybody I've ever told that to, they have no idea about that. And usually other people are way more convinced of it being something supernatural than me. I'm like, I don't really know. They'd be like, trust me. And I'll be like, It's like, I don't know.
No, there's a lot of, I remember in that same house actually where I had that, a dream that I had or whatever, my dad coming back from the dead. I remember in that same house, this was like a house, in Brampton in Canada. It was really fast construction. They build all these cookie cutter houses there. And it was built on an old farmland. So the ground was constantly settling, and the house was, how you get the walls, like every so often you start seeing this crack up here in the drywall and things like that. It was just not the best construction, let's put it that way. Even though my mom sold that house recently for like over $1 million, which is insane when you consider that she bought it for so cheap. But that's just like it speaks to the insane housing prices.
Well, that was the market. Trust me, it's changed.
What I mean, it's slowing down, or
within the last like couple months. Yeah, now it's flipped to a buyer's market. So
Oh,
houses
okay,
aren't
okay.
as crazy anymore. Not even close.
Oh, okay, okay. But yeah, but I remember in that house, everything was settling, everything was moving, and I do remember that my aunt came once, my sister of my dad, and she was also like this is already no a few years after my dad passed away, but I guess she was associating that house because that's what the where my dad basically was right for the last few months of his life, and so she associated that house like with my dad, and I remember. We were sleeping one time, or no, I was going to sleep. It was like really late already, but I was doing something on the computer. And then she wakes up, I think it was maybe 11 or 12 or something at night, and she was already asleep. Oh my God, oh my God. And then, I'm like, what happened? She's like, oh my God, there's a ghost. There's a ghost. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what kind of ghost? And she's like, no, there's a ghost. I heard him. It's probably your dad. I'm like, my dad? I'm like, what do you mean? What did you hear? And she's like, yeah, because he was like stepping steps, and and he was kind of angry, I think. And I'm like, steps? I'm like, yeah, right here on the main stairs, that like from the main door. And I'm like, what do you mean? What did you hear? She goes, I heard the. I'm like, oh yeah, the house pretty much squeaks, but the stairs especially, they're like these wooden oak stairs, and
Mm-hmm.
No, she was convinced that it was thing. So it's funny because I asked her, what she heard, and she told me there was just these squeaks. So then I had her sit with me because she just didn't want to calm down. I like made some tea for her, sat down, and I'm like, oh, and I just wanted to calm her down. And then when we were like sitting quietly, I heard the sound again, and I'm like, did it sound like that? And then she's like, no, because then I heard. And I'm like, and you could see originally she said it was just the squeaks. Now she's adding sounds of footsteps, like because your imagination, like when you convince yourself of something, it's like when I think it was an experiment I watched once where they literally had people.
Your brain will make it make sense. That's what your brain does. It makes things make sense. It's like when you see like online they'll have words misspelled incorrectly on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Your brain will automatically correct it if it's close enough.
Yeah, so I that's what I think was happening to her, and she was and then like I said, if you spoke to her, like next time, like the next day, she spoke to my mom, and then she added something else she saw, like all these things. It was always, oh, there's a ghost behind you.
Huh? Sorry, no, just
okay. I thought there was a ghost behind you. It's like, wow.
No, not yet.
Not yet. And I just remember that like each time she told that story. She always added something new to it. It was like it was getting bigger and bigger in her head because she kept on, retelling it. So, yeah, I mean,
over years, it's like broken telephone. Like you will remember it differently, especially if certain parts aren't making sense. You'll kind of make it make sense over time.
Yeah. So so I guess right now I am not like. I'll tell you this though, I'm not in a way where I completely dismiss idea of like afterlife. And thing, and I'm no longer, I was born as a Catholic, but I'm not really definitely not practicing Catholic, but I'm sure there's certain things that were left from that, upbringing and that, that culture that I might be thinking of sometimes. But I also, I've gone through so many changes, heard interesting stories, met interesting people that, I do believe that there's definitely something, beyond the physical. I just say, and I've actually seen something, again, if I told people, and I have told a few people this story, some people I think believe me because they maybe want to believe it. Some people will just disregard it as like, oh, it was just your mind playing tricks on you. So, there's, like I said, but I don't know why, but I guess, yeah, I'm convinced that there's something like if I were to ask you, like, before you were born, do you believe you already existed? It's just your body, when your body came into existence, that's when you became aware? Or do you think you were literally nothing until your body developed and you, like, what do you think?
If I had to pick between the two, I'd probably assume that you're nothing until you're here.
So just basically a bunch of cells, whatever, you're the sperm and the thing and the egg, and then they slowly grow and that's how you become you?
I've never really thought of it, but probably yeah. Like if I had to like really put an answer to it now, like that's probably what I would say. I mean, I have nothing that convinces me otherwise.
Okay. Now,
Because I'm not I'm similar to like what you said, how you consider yourself. You grew up. I grew up Christian, but it's like I don't feel like I identify with that anymore. Like I'm more, I guess, what people would call like agnostic. Like I don't know if there's something after this, but I wouldn't rule it out.
mhm. Okay, but then let's just put it this way then. Uh, you were nothing at then at one point, right? Or you could say you were one cell. You started as one little cell, one single cell
Yeah.
organism, right? And then something, happened and you grew, right, to the size that you are right now, just even physically, right? But
Right.
even your habits and all that stuff, all those things are, like whether you even want to admit it or not, you have things from, maybe your, I don't know, your mouth looks the same as your grandfather, your
Mhm.
ears, your skin color, your hair, I don't know, like you have characteristics from your ancestors, right?
Right.
So there's something there, right? That was some information that was passed on, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And now, why is it that, for example, and how is it that you grow? Like, what do you think happens when you eat? Why is it that your body gets bigger and thing? I mean, it really just comes down to you're eating food, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way you eat, your lifestyle, the way you eat. Like, I've been told that your body adapts to your lifestyle as well. Like, I don't know how true this is, but they say like if you were to start playing like maybe piano from a certain age, they say that your fingers will actually like adapt to better
Oh,
suit
I
a piano player.
I believe that, yeah, because I've seen my stepbrother, amazing piano player, and he's yeah, he didn't never wanted to be, but anyways, he was kind of, it almost sounds like he was forced into it by his mom, and but anyways, so yeah, but if you think about this, so for example, let's say whatever, we have a piece of bread. I take a piece, take a piece. I eat that piece of bread, right? And that piece of bread is definitely not me, right? But I'll eat it, and slowly will turn into me, right? Will make me, help me grow, right? Especially as a kid, as you're still growing. You eat it, you also grow. So that same piece of bread, or that same, the same piece of banana, or if we shared an apple, the same thing, composition of cells, yet you take it in your body and it becomes you. I take it in my body and becomes me, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So now, how is it? It is basically that like I said, something that seems seemingly so lifeless, yet it sort of seems to always find the right direction. Like like if you give, I don't know, if you eat a banana, you're not going to turn into a monkey. Give it to a monkey, he'll eat it. He'll turn it, into, so you could say, a bigger monkey if he eats enough bananas. If I eat it, I'll turn, into me, just have, again, a bigger portion of all that stuff. So it's sort of like, if you think about it rationally, there's some kind of intelligence inside all of us, whether it's me, you, a monkey, a dog, or whatever it is, even a tree, right? All of the living things on this planet, there's some kind of intelligence inside all of us, and that intelligence is what's guiding. Because you could be the biggest fucking idiot in the world, but you eat that banana, or you eat that a piece of bread, or you eat that apple, and it's still gonna turn, just gonna make a even bigger idiot out of you. You know what I mean? You don't have to have. You don't have to. So I'm saying you don't have to have zero intelligence, but yet there's some underlying intelligence within all of us. I'm saying within all of our life that guides it all, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So if that's the case, clearly that intelligence already existed before you were born, because your parents were here, and before that, their parents and your great grandparents and your,
So you mean
hundreds.
essentially it's just like passed down, like you think everything I guess is passed down, like not just like looks wise. You mean like even like personality traits and things like that.
Yeah, there's even studies that were done. What is it about with mice? I think it was. It's usually with mice, poor mice. And I say that because I used to have pets, mice. that I got so used to them, and they're very intelligent animals. But anyways, there was a study done that I forgot what it was. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of like they literally like had like different kinds of foods like hidden in different compartments, and I think it was it was just different shapes or something like that, or different smells that they gave it, and basically as a mouse basically went in there, and if they just did it enough times, where for example, all of the windows, when the second the mouse stuck, its face into it to take a bite, it would electrocute that mouse. So that mouse, for example, would be like, okay, if it went to this window, it could eat a little bit of the food. If it went to that window, it could eat. But if it went to this specific window that had I think it was a specific smell, right, that they just sprayed like a perfume, and then they electrocuted it each time. Each time it tried it, it got electrocuted. Guess what happened? That mouse, for the rest of its life, when it smelled that smell, it was terrified. It was just whoosh, run and hide, because it just constantly associated. But you know what's even more incredible? For the next 3 generations of that mouse, its babies would remember that. So it's almost like the DNA, passes genetic information about, like I said, your mouth, your nose, whatever is the way that maybe your great grandfather used to look. And you never knew him, but you have it in your face, right? Or your certain abilities.
That's true.
But also things that happen, especially traumatic things. But even supposedly, when they started doing like really happy things, like really things that are very emotional, whether positive or negative, they get embedded in the genetic, you could say, information or some other information, so strong that it will actually last several more generations, until eventually, if it's not being repeated, it will slowly get diluted. So basically, like in mice, they found that like for the next 3 generations, those mice that never went through that experiment, they would smell that smell, and they would be just that same reaction. Holy shit! They didn't know why. You know what I mean? That's what they were. So like I'm saying again, there's some kind of underlying intelligence, because it can't just purely be memory based. Like as if you had a computer, right? And a computer, it's all great if you have memory, right? You have the hard drives and all this stuff but memory is useless on a computer unless you have some kind of software running that memory, right? And doing something with it. So what I'm saying is, it's in terms of life, I would say, and not just human beings, but just all life on this planet. We have genetic memory clearly being passed on, but we also have some kind of this software, or you could say intelligence, that then runs it all. Because it knows already when, like I said, when you take these molecules that make up this apple or this banana, I eat it, and it still knows how to process those molecules, those atoms of that, to basically turn it into you, right?
Right. So you're not just saying.
I'm saying from a scientific point of view.
Thing of like us being like having a soul before we were here or something like that. You're more saying that we just inherit. We've been here longer than we think we have, because we inherit things from.
Yeah, I guess to me at least, the more the more years I've been on this planet, the more things I've experienced, and I had like this some really weird experiences in my life. And then, and especially I remember when I went to India and I started I was there for a film project, but I met some interesting people, and then I got interested in some of the Indian, like the religions, or the some of their kind of explanations on life. Mm-hmm. And whether it's Hindu or Buddhism, for example, where it talks about that there's this, and they all kind of explain it slightly differently, but they're kind of the way they're saying it is, and it's kind of, you can draw similarities to even Christian religion in terms of
similar.
That it's basically, they're saying that there's this underlying one intelligence, or this life force, they call them. Some of them will call it, and some of them will call it God, right? Like Jesus. When you look at teachings of Jesus, he literally is saying, over and over, if you're really looking at it, it's almost like he's trying to pass on information about something that maybe wasn't common knowledge, or maybe what we consider blasphemy at the time. But he literally is telling people, I am the Son of God. You are the Son of God. We are thing. He says the kingdom of God, right? Look, God, or this intelligence, or this life force, he says the kingdom of God is in all of us. he's literally telling you the same thing, but I guess for the times he was telling you.
Well, that's the thing. The Bible, well, the Christian Bible is it's full of like parables. Like a lot of people take a lot of the stories literally, but they're not really supposed to be taken literally. A lot of it's just like parables. Like you got to like kind of read into what the underlying message is in all of the stories.
Yep.
Like I don't believe Adam and Eve, it was an apple that they were talking about. I'm pretty sure they were talking about sex.
It could have been, yeah, or maybe something else that was forgiven. But yeah.
But and that's the thing. You interpret it how you want to interpret it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think if you literally read the Bible, which I did as a kid, because I used to go to Sunday school and I just it effed me up, and I was like, no, I want to read this thing, I want to find it. And then once I actually finished reading the Bible, and I'll admit I skipped big parts of the Old Testament because it's just boring or weird as fuck.
A lot of it just didn't make sense to me when I was like, similarly to you, like when I was younger, I tried to read through it and it just
doesn't it contradict itself?
Like parts of it, at least for me, just because I just didn't understand. I don't know if I was at an age to understand a lot of it, or if it was just
no. I think it's so messed up. It's literally a collection of stories, and the interesting thing is too that some of them are just badly written, but another thing is you'll start noticing when you read the whole Bible, you'll be like, oh, I remember I read that story, and now this story literally contradicts each other. Like it's like what the hell? Like, it's like a book that kind of, like I said, refutes itself in certain parts. But what's interesting about Jesus in particular, and that's what I'm saying, his stories or parts of his stories are, passed on in the Bible, but there's obviously all these other gospels that never made it into the Bible, as in other writings of him. And what's interesting is that when you hear that, obviously the story is quite a bit different. The image is not so sanitized as it is in the Bible. But it's also, you can see that he's literally telling you the same things that Mahatma, when I say Mahatma, Gautama Gandhi, Buddha Gautama was saying, or what, a lot of these basically teachers, these like you could say spiritual teachers were saying throughout, all these different times. And he seems to me like he was just another one of those people passing on this knowledge, but trying to explain it for the time and for the culture and the region where he lived the best that he could. And because he, was from a Jewish background and most of the people he was speaking to were Jews, he kind of tried to make it so that it still sort of fits and makes sense for people who believed, who had that, traditional Jewish upbringing. As in, the figure of God and all that stuff. But he's trying to tell you now that God isn't some little like figure above all of us that's watching and judging us. No, he's literally telling you multiple times, he's within you. He's your father, or you are, the son of God. And we're all basically the children of God, as in we're a part of him. And he's literally telling you the same thing that, like I said, that the various Buddhas said throughout the times, and all these other spiritual teachers. So what I'm saying is basically that my understanding now is that there is this, I guess, sort of, you could say, this life force or this intelligence, this central intelligence that is behind every living thing, in this universe. And it's guiding all of us. It's just sort of like, at least like, I'll tell you this one experience I had once, which I've told a few people, and I know some people just didn't get it. Some people were like, whatever, this guy's fucking crazy, I think. But it was this weird thing where I was literally working at a computer. It was in my home office. My other house is in a basement. My wife, my kids were upstairs. And this was about maybe 5-6 years ago. And I'm just sitting there, working this and that. And I think you've seen my office. I have usually like multiple monitors, right? And on one of the monitors on the side, I just had this video playing. It was, I think it was a guy it was like one of these YouTube suggested videos, I think. I'm pretty sure it was from YouTube. It was a guy he was channeling some like ghost or something, and they're speaking through him, I think that's what it was. And I remember specifically, I'm like working on this computer, and I just look over at someone, and I'm like, man, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And this guy's just literally sitting there, and he's like, oh, he's in me, and like, oh, it makes these faces. I'm like, what, like, and that's not really bad acting. Like that's what I'm thinking, right? And then suddenly his voice changes a little bit, and he starts talking and saying, like, oh, I forgot exactly how it was, but it was like, I know you're listening, right? You're listening to me right now. And it was like, literally, I think he said, most of you are not going to hear this, but the few that are, I want you to stop everything you're doing right now and just follow along with me. And I'm like, okay. And like, that kind of just got my attention a little bit. And I was like, okay, I kind of stopped for a moment. And then he goes, Tom, and some other name. And I think he said like 3 names. I know you're listening. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird, but I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe he just picked some names. Maybe he does these videos.
He just picked really common, what he thought to be a common name that.
Yeah, exactly. And here's what I'm saying. My skeptical mind is just going, whatever. This guy's bullshit. But I remember I was like a little tired to the thing. So I just stopped. I put away my mouse and I'm just like looking at this video. I'm like, okay. And then he says something like, concentrate on I think it was something, concentrate on the point between your eyebrows. So I was like, okay. And I'm like, it was pretty like very direct, like this direction that he gave to do this, do that, breathe in. Now slowly close your eyes and you breathe out. You think of this, and then it like repeat it a few times and do it. I don't know what happened, but like it seemed like almost like I got drunk or something, and I don't remember the moment, or like when you fall asleep, but you don't remember the moment when you fell asleep. Right. But it was weird because instead of falling asleep, not being aware of what's happening, I became. The best way I can explain it is almost like I was infinitely more aware of everything. So like right now, how do you know something's happening, or it's because you either see it. You can hear it, right? Touch it, whatever, your senses, right? If it's outside of your senses, you're going to be like, well, I don't know, maybe it didn't happen, right? Well, suddenly it's like, it was almost like, I remember because I was sitting there and at first I started feeling like I felt the floor, like literally the floor, even though I was sitting on the chair with my feet up, I felt like I could feel the weight of me and then the weight of the floor almost pushing against the chair. And I literally felt as if I was the chair. It sounds fucking weird, but I'm telling you, like as if I was the chair and I'm touching the floor. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then it starts spreading, this feeling. And it literally gets to a point where I can feel like, I remember I heard the vibrations and like this stuff happening in the computer. Because I had the computer, and my computer is pretty quiet, but suddenly I heard like this fan, electrical things happening. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm just sitting there, like just sitting there and going, oh my God, I can feel this. Like it wasn't like I heard it or something.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling, but I literally, I felt it. And I remember to the point where I started laughing at myself and I'm like, this is cool, but this is a fucking weird dream. Like I must have, and I'm thinking, I must have been hypnotized, right? And then it starts spreading and I feel like, I remember I could feel like outside, the grass moving in the trees, because we have like right outside the wall. My backyard there, my office, and then it starts spreading, and I literally go upstairs, and then I feel my wife being angry, and then my kids being like a little scared and sad, and then I literally was, and I couldn't hear what was happening, I couldn't think, but it was just like I felt like literally like I could feel both my kids and my wife, and this like she's angry and this and that, and they're kind of scared. And I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on with it? And then I snapped out of it like that. And it felt like it was pretty fast, like maybe 3-4 seconds. It's just this weird feeling like, oh, spreads, and then thing. And then I'm like, okay, what the hell happened? And then, I'm like looking around. And I remember I looked at the clock because I had a deadline that I was working on. And I'm like, what the shit? What the hell? Like I think it was like close to an hour that passed. So after that, I was like, whoa, okay, that was trippy.
It felt like 4 seconds, but it was actually an hour?
Yeah. And then I remember I got up and I ran upstairs and I had like almost like tears in my eyes because I felt just weird. And I ran up to my wife, and then my wife was like scolding my 2 kids about something they spilled or whatever. And I'm like, baby, it's okay. The kids are scared. And then she's like, what? And then she's like, what happened to you? Why are you crying? And I'm like, I don't know, but I felt it. Like I felt your thing. And she's like, what do you mean? And she got freaked out, I think. But my wife is cool because my wife is very traditional in many ways, but she also will believe anything, like pretty much. Like if I tell her or not so much that she believes it, but she doesn't ridicule it. She's like, oh, okay, tell me more, that kind of thing, right? She doesn't right away like put it down. But dude, that was the weirdest experience. It was kind of amazing and kind of almost scary at the same time. And I remember I came down, I was looking for that video. I wanted to experience it again because I was like, this was weird. And I could never find that video again. I looked fucking everywhere. I tried after that. I remember like different meditations. And that's when I got into a lot of these, like started downloading these apps for meditation.
You don't remember exactly what they said to you? Like,
no, I don't remember. It was sort of like with some of these meditators when I started then going and getting into that whole world. Like these meditators say, like where you're like imagine a light in your forehead or like a third eye or these like different things. But I tried all these things. None of them worked. It was just this weird thing where I was being so skeptical to the point where I was laughing at this guy. And I had this weird fucking experience. So to this day, I'll tell you this. Because I tried to rationalize it after. And the more I tried to rationalize it, the more fucking crazy it seemed. Like it seemed like I was fucking going nuts. All I remember is that I kept on going back to one fact. I'm like, I could have imagined me sitting and feeling the floor through the chair or feeling what's happening in the computer. That could have just been my imagination. But I did not hear anything. What was happening upstairs? And I felt, literally, it's like I didn't even hear their words, but I felt what my wife and my kids were going through. And then when I went upstairs, I was fully awake by that point. And I think so. Because of that, I rationalized like what happened to me was not some hallucinogenic, like I don't know, did some mushrooms or something. I literally and me, I don't drink alcohol, I don't do weed, I don't do anything. Like I just don't like being under the influence. I mean, to the extreme where I stopped drinking coffee and everything years ago. So I'm not one of those people, and I know I was not under the influence of anything. But yet I literally could feel what my wife and my kids were feeling. And it was this weird feeling that it felt like I was expanding. And then, dude, after that, I started researching and finding out. And then, like I said, what happens in like what some of these cultures in India or in the East believe. And I was like, holy shit, literally the stuff that they're talking about is kind of what I think I experienced. Like, it's like I experienced being one with everything, or my awareness of it was expanding to become like, it was weird. It was a weird thing. And I can't explain it, but I'll tell you, that then opened me, to a whole other, it's like opens a whole other, like, rabbit hole. And you can go into it.
Interesting. That's really interesting. There's certain things like that where you can't really explain it. And it's hard to even, especially since it's a feeling, it's hard to really I guess, put it into words almost. Yeah.
It wasn't even like, because I remember some people who seemed genuinely interested in my story would ask me, like, okay, but what did you see? And it's like, I literally have my eyes closed. It's not like that I saw something or I felt it or smelled it. It had nothing to do with my senses. It was, the only thing was like the feeling. It's like I felt like I was literally the chair. I felt, to the point where I could feel like like you study about it in school about how the molecules and atoms and muons and electrons, how they react. And I literally could feel, I remember, especially when I went into the computer, I could feel the electrons and everything jumping, like the vibration in it. It was just the weirdest thing.
It reminds me almost of like there's a lot of people that believe that, you ever get like just the feeling like just a feeling that tells you should or shouldn't do something, and then you go against it, and then...
I never had that, no.
You've never had that?
No, I'm not one of those people, no. I heard stories. But...
I get those a lot, and I don't know if it's actually like... Again, I'm not somebody that believes this is like I have some sort of superpower or some shit, or like, you know what I mean? But
like what's intuition?
Like there's a lot of times in life where something will tell me, okay, you should do this or you shouldn't do this. And a lot of times I'll just go with that feeling, like my gut instinct. But whenever I don't, I find bad things happen. And it's kind of similar.
Oh, you mean like when you have the feeling like you shouldn't do it, but you go against it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, give me an
Like,
example. Like what?
yeah, I'm trying to remember, like, because honestly, it's just something that happens often. So I don't know if I have anything specific that I can think of, but like, it's always a thing where it's like, if I'm feeling like I shouldn't go somewhere, and then I end up going there anyway, like, what's gonna happen? Even if it's nothing like too crazy, even if it's nothing crazy, like, something bad always happens. Like, okay, you know what? Actually, I do remember one was um the parade we had out here, with like the Raptors thing.
Mhm.
I had told people that I was going to go to it, and I was planning to go to it. But then at the last minute, I'm like, you know what? I really feel like something's going to go down there. Like, I'm just going to stay home. And then, sure enough, there was a shooting. Now, is that just like, me? Like,
What do you mean?
I
Like on the
common
street?
sense would say, like, huh?
There was a shooting like right there on the street. Where you're gonna go or?
Yeah.
Really? Oh shit.
Yeah. And it's like,
Speaking of that, isn't there going to be Caravana this weekend in Toronto?
pretty sure it's this weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, get ready for those shootings, right? I always hear like Caravana in Toronto. Oh, and by the way, 5 people got shot. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
And that's the thing. That's what I was about to say. I'm like, I don't like that might not be the greatest example because like, these things always get shot up.
Yeah,
Like these huge events, because the chances are there's going to be a few people that
like a couple idiots who ruin it for everybody.
crowd that are just So I mean, but it's something similar to that. Usually like less extreme. Like I'm not saying people get shot when that happens normally, but it'll always be. I'll always regret going for one reason or another when I go against that. So I just feel like that's kind of something similar to what you're saying, because you're talking about like being able to kind of, I guess, feel things that are around you, and I think like intuition is kind of similar to that.
Maybe, yeah. It's weird because you see, I'm very my mom, is a pretty religious woman, and she used to always try to teach me to be like more, I guess, good Christian boy kind of thing. She grew up again in Krakow in Poland, where John Paul II, he was the priest there. So she was actually baptized by him before he became a cardinal, and then before he became pope and all that stuff. And even when he was pope, like they had contact with him, used to come visit them, like my grandpa especially. Anyway, so my mom, because of that, she was obviously affected, and she believed in a lot of these, like a lot of the Roman Catholic values. And I was always the one who would be like skeptical of everything. And I remember like one time, I mean, I guess I was old enough, like 10 or something, and my mom would just kind of realize, that's it, I'm never gonna teach this boy to think. And I remember she told me, she said, "You're just like the doubtful Thomas. I guess I named you, right, something like that." She said, from the Bible, because she said you have to touch Jesus's, I think was it the hole, right, after Jesus arose, because otherwise you wouldn't even believe that he was crucified. And yeah, and that's how I was, and I kind of feel like unless I see scientific kind of like something that I can't explain any other way, I'm not gonna believe it.
I have a hard time, and that's the thing with a lot of religions, is they're faith based, and I'm a person that I'm just like you, where I need, for me to believe in something. It's even like what we were talking about, like aliens and stuff like that before, like how I said, I kind of like, I lean towards, I think that there are, but I don't know for sure. I'm never going to be that person that's just like hard, like without hard evidence, that's going to be like they exist, or ghosts exist, or there is like an afterlife. I don't know. So like I could say what my guesses are, but like you said, I need like concrete evidence before I really say, okay, this is a thing.
Yeah. So I'm like that too, which is weird, because then when I had that experience, it kind of almost started me on a path. But like I'm still very skeptical, and I always double check. And I'll tell you, I've read some stories, of people claiming all kinds of things, or that they had experience, or they spoke to, I don't know, Buddha, someone, and one of the Buddhas came back and spoke to them. Like, and when I started looking at all these stories, like sooner or later it turns out like, yeah, it's almost likely bullshit. Like there's nothing to prove other than just, well, I say so kind of thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then it's funny, because then, and that's why I don't tell too many people. I mean, I guess, well, right now, whoever listens to the podcast, kind of this incident that I had is because I totally would, like any person who hears that, I think they should just be like, yeah, Tom is probably full of bullshit, like that was just a made up story or thing, because if I heard somebody else tell me that story, I'd be like, yeah, but okay, what evidence do you have? And that's the whole point. I don't have any evidence of what happened to me. It was just this weird feeling that went through me. And at the end of the day, though, I guess I don't care about convincing anybody. Believe me if you want to. Don't believe me if you think.
That's how you have to. That's how you have to be with these kind of things. And that's the thing. Like even like for me personally, hearing like this story, it's like I'm the same as like how you are. So for me, I do believe that you experienced that and like that you feel like that happened. But for me, like it would have to happen to me for me to believe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, but I do believe, did that happen to you? Is there an explanation for what happened?
Oh,
A
yeah.
scientific explanation? Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe you just were experiencing exactly what you said.
Yeah, or maybe I was hallucinating, but
maybe, it was a hallucination. The brain is a funny thing; it can do weird things that you have no idea, right?
And I also, that's what I'm saying. I also, I accept that it could be that I actually experienced what some of these, ancient like Eastern philosophies try to teach us, or I just had a hallucination that just happened to align with it. And I just got lucky that I kind of, you could see, almost guessed what was happening with my wife and my kids at the time. You know what I mean? But I guess that's the only thing that, to me at least, makes me kind of go, but how? How would I know this? Like, it was just weird because that's not something that happens in our house all the time. It's like really rare that like my wife gets, you know what I mean? That.
Yeah, otherwise, that's exactly how I would deal with the situation too. It's just funny because like most people, like when something happens, they would just believe right into it. But you're like how I am, where you're still going to question, like, well, even though it happened, I'm going to still,
But I do remember after that, like I said, I went on a quest looking for that video, trying to find that thing. And then when I couldn't, I started looking at these other like meditation techniques and all stuff because it kind of felt like I was going into a meditation with this breathing and this. And I could never find anything that had any kind of effect like that on me. And it's just weird. It's just that. It's a very weird.
Unexplained moments. I had something like, well, not like that, but I had my own unexplained moment that, unlike the one that I said earlier with the sleep paralysis, this one was harder for me to like reconcile because it was really weird. And it was a time like I was like a kid, maybe like 8 or 9 years old or something. And a lot of times me and my sister would, like have you wouldn't call it a slumber party or whatever. It's just like I would like go just like sleep on her floor and we just crack jokes and like talk shit and whatever. And we were doing that one night. We were really loud. It was really late. My mom came in the room and she was basically telling us to go to bed. So we pretend like we were going to, and then as soon as she left, we started doing the exact same thing, just making jokes, being loud and whatever. And then out of nowhere, I hear this voice from in the middle of the room, and it was just like, go to bed. And it was in the middle of the room, like, and I heard it, and I looked over my sister's face, and she looked freaked out. So I'm like, okay, she heard that too. And that's one of those things where I'm just like, I have no idea how to explain that because it's like, we both heard it. It was very clearly like a male's voice. My dad was not in the house. My mom had already left, and I don't think she could have mimicked the voice that we heard. Plus, it came from like within the room, and we both heard it. And that was the thing where I was just like, okay, this is something that would be, a little bit harder to explain just because it happened to two people. If I was by myself, then I'd probably be like, okay, maybe I'm just hearing things.
Yeah.
But she heard the exact same thing I heard.
Wow.
So I think that's the only, experience I had that for me, I just really can't explain at all.
And you've tried, like you were trying to rationalize it and how?
Well, yeah, like when I looked, like I figured at first it was just me, but when I saw like the way she was looking, I'm like, okay, she heard the exact same thing. I'm like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah, like someone saying go to bed. I'm like, yeah, so you heard it too. And at first we were, even though, like I said, it didn't sound anything like what my mom would, sound like, we did make sure. And she wasn't the type of person that would just like if she did play a joke like that, she would always tell us after, because she like anytime anything like that has happened and she has played like a joke, eventually she would come around to it. But that was something like for years we talked about it, and she's just like, I'm telling you, that wasn't she, like what you said with how your wife is, where she'll like kind of just like believe like certain stories like that. Like my mom was very much like that, especially when it came to like religious type stuff, and her father had just passed, so she personally believed that it was her father like playing his own game from like the afterlife on us. But I don't know.
Changing topics a little bit. I guess, well, not, I mean, still staying within the topic, but there was a story my grandpa told me once, which was back in the day, like in the, I don't know, in the 50s or something in Poland. Very backwards at the time, wasn't like 1950s in North America. And he would live in that little small town. And basically he said that, you know, they used to, like, as young guys used to just kind of, you know, just play different pranks, do all kinds of crazy stuff. And he said,
right.
He what's it called? Was it? He got, you know, they got drunk once. They were like out hanging out, I think, at his buddy's farm, like his buddy's parents' farm, at the barn, you know, sneaking in liquor and this and that. And then they all got this idea like, oh, you know, let's go hit the town. And it was like middle of the week, nothing was happening. But like, there's these, you know, couple girls that lived there in the center of town. Oh, let's go there, let's go. And they lived in the outskirts of town, like where all the farms were. Let's go, you know, let's you know, throw some rocks or whatever, wake up these girls, you know, and thing, right? Let's just, you know, be guys, pick on some girls. And then he said that, but they just like, you know, one buddy got so drunk he literally couldn't get up. The other guys also like started vomiting or something. He's like, oh, I don't know. Finally, basically, my grandpa said it was just up to him, and he's like, oh, fuck, I'm going to go and ask this girl out, whatever that they were all like fantasizing about. So he gets thing, and he gets out of the bar and starts walking down the street towards the town, and it's getting dark already. It's kind of dusk, and then he sees this guy that they would always see, you know, kind of a neighbor 3 the houses down, and he's just sitting on the side of the road, and he goes like, oh, what are you doing here? Right? It's like, why are you just sitting by yourself? And he goes, you know, my grandpa's name was Władek. He goes, Władek. You kids, you think you don't know what you still have, you know, left in front, you know, ahead of you, just wasting your life away. He goes, yeah, okay, whatever. He goes, what are you doing up here? You know, just why don't you go home? He goes, no, I can't go back home, but you should go home. He goes, what? Why? Yeah, you should go. You shouldn't be heading to town now. It's getting dark and it's very not safe. And he's like, what? No, I want to go. He goes, no, I'm telling you, you really don't want to go. You should be heading back home. And my grandpa said that he just kind of had this weird feeling. He's like, oh, okay. And he kept on walking a little bit still, but he kept on thinking what the guy told him. And then finally he stops. He's like, shit, okay, maybe. I don't know. It just feels weird. And then he started looking around. It's like getting dark. It's, you know, he's by himself. And then he's like, fuck it. Maybe I'll just, you know, head back home, whatever. I'll go holler at those girls some other time. And he turns around, the guy's gone, and he's like, okay. And he just heads over right back up the street, you know, to his house. Gets there in the morning, he wakes up and he tells his parents, he goes, you know, wow, I saw this, you know, our neighbor, right? But he's like, you know, lives all these few farms down the road. But he was just sitting there. He kind of seemed kind of odd by himself and this and that and these things. And then they're like, what do you mean? Who was it, right? And he said, Kazimierz. He goes, no, didn't you hear? He goes, what? Yeah, there was a flood yesterday, and his house got flooded and a few others, and he drowned. And he's like, what? He goes, yeah, it was. We were looking for you guys. We were worried. Where the hell were you? And my grandpa, you know, was getting drunk, and he's like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, he drowned yesterday. He died. And my grandpa said it was just like the weirdest feeling.
So what was he warning him about then? What was
that basically, if he was going to go, he's probably going to drown, because it was like the river overflowed in their town. This is back in the day in Poland. They didn't do dams or nothing. So when after the winter, the rivers would just flood every so on, and it just flooded the whole, like you go down the road towards the town.
Oh, okay.
Flooded, so and yeah, this guy didn't think. Now, do I believe that story? Well, my grandpa was full of shit a lot of times, so I don't know if I believe it. He used to tell good stories sometimes. Yeah, so you know, I mean, like he told me this other story, which
so when you
so again,
he used to be full of shit. Was he just like trying to trick you and like trying to be funny, or was he trying to really pass off like this story like this?
My grandpa he was weird. He would sometimes tell these stories like he was the one who knew, you know, the Pope, or who, you know, or Karol, right? It was his name, who became John Pope II. So he knew him, and he would tell me stories about the Vatican, what he saw in there, all that stuff. But because he got invited to the Vatican actually, but so he would tell me stories like that, and then every so on he would tell me stories that then afterwards I was like, really, is that true? And then he's like, don't believe everything you hear. I'm like, yeah, but you told me the story, you know, like when I was a kid. And then when I was older, and then he's like, don't believe everything you hear. So I'm like, I don't know, but he liked to tell stories. But I remember this one, he said it was like in his town, they were all hanging out with his buddies, and they started doing kind of like truth or dare kind of thing. And they were just daring each other, you know, and one guy got dared that, because everybody thought he was like the chicken shit. He's scared of everything. So they said, he's like, no, I'm not. They're like, all right, do you want to prove it? Or the only way you can prove it? And somebody came up with this challenge. He has to go at midnight to the cemetery, and that, you know, they were digging a hole for, I guess, another person, whatever, that passed away, and then you had to go and into the grave. So they all went. You know, it was close to midnight. They all you know, it was kind of everybody's by this point a little like the atmosphere, he said, was a little thing. Everybody's quiet, but they're all still cracking jokes. And then, you know, they get there and they see, sure enough, there's this big hole dug. You know, they're getting ready to bury somebody. So they're like, all right, jump in, and you got to stay there. And once the midnight clock thinks, then you can jump out and thing, right? But you got to stay there till midnight. Oh, okay. And he jumps in, and they all start, you know, just ditched him, just like start running away from there. And this is like, you know, I guess when they dig those holes for the coffins, it's not that easy to get out of it, because so he was like trying to close
6 feet in the ground.
Yeah, and he said that they heard him. They heard him. Help me! It's like first it was just like, I can't get out, I'm sleeping, and then help me! Like he just started screaming, and then it just went silent. And they all just thought it was the freakiest thing. And then, like he said, right at that time, it was like they checked their watches, and sure enough, it's midnight. So they're all like, "Fuck him!" They ditched him. And then the guy died of a heart attack. He told me, he's like, yeah, the kid died of a heart attack. Then they found him the next day, in the hall, and they found that his jacket got cut on like a root or something was sticking out, like one of the roots on the ground, and it looked like he was probably trying to get away, but it was pulling on him, and that because they heard him screaming, "He got me! They got me!" Something like that, and he probably
grabbed him.
So he thought something's grabbing him because imagine his buddies with the flashlight ran away, so he's in pitch black in this hall in the middle of fucking cemetery, and it's like midnight, and then and he was already a scared guy, and basically he died of a heart attack.
That's a shitty way to go.
That's a shitty. Yeah, I mean he went out screaming. Let's just put it that way. So you know, not necessarily that there was a ghost, but I guess he probably thought till the moment he died that there was a ghost pulling on him, right? Wow. So, yeah. That's the thing. That was a lot of. My grandpa told me this other story. I don't know if you want to hear it a little bit longer. What time do we have?
No, yo, go for it.
All right, okay, I'll tell you. I'll try to do a summarized version of it. Anyways, there was a couple that my grandpa said he heard about. He didn't know them personally, but they, young couple, they got married, and they were, trying to save up, have this whole dream of like, we're gonna have our own little house, we're gonna raise kids, and all that stuff. And sure enough, she gets pregnant, and they very quickly, they were living with his parents, but she's like, well, no, it's time for us to move out. Like, we can't have the kids here now, and everybody, and we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment with your parents. Let's get out. So they started looking, and everything in the price range they just couldn't find, right? Until finally somebody said, well, the next village over, there's like this house over there, right? It's been on the market for a while, looks like it, and could probably get a good price. So they go, sure enough, they see this house needs a little bit of work and stuff, but otherwise nice house, nice big property, and it's kind of, like I said, it's outside of all the cities, right? And there's literally like on the countryside. Right. But still close enough where he can like drive to work, I guess, and thing. And so they, ask, and then the owners are like, "Oh yeah, sure, you can buy it," And they're like, "Oh, okay, what's the price?" And they're like, "Well, what are you looking to pay?" And they tell them the price, and they're like, "Yep, that's good." And they're like, "Oh, wow, okay." They're like, "Well, we can afford this house," so they're excited. They buy this house, and sure enough, they move in. So his pregnant wife, this guy move in, and everything's cool. And then he had this work where he was like a delegate for a thing like the Communist Party. It was in Poland when it was communist still. So he would travel a lot. So he goes and he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be gone this weekend, and then I'm going to be back, right? Okay. And he goes, and then, she goes to sleep, this and that, everything's good. And suddenly in the middle of the night, she starts hearing. And she's like, okay. She's like, what the hell's this sound, right? So she wakes up and then she's like, okay, is somebody home? Right? And then it starts speeding up. And she's like, okay, what the hell are these sounds? You know, so she's thinking, and you know, this thumping and this and that, and she hears that it's downstairs. What the fuck is going on downstairs? She looks out the window.
What does it sound like? Something's walking.
Yeah, like there's like something could look like hitting the wood or something, okay. And she's, you know, you start like she's hearing all these sounds. And bang, bang, clink, clink, clink. And, you know, and she's like, what the hell? And she's like, I'm not imagining this. And she looks out the window. Her husband's not back. There's no thing. She's like, what the fuck, right? So she just spends the rest of the night, like, just holding her blanket. And she's like, what the fuck? And then, you know, next day comes. She you know, runs downstairs. And she just sees, like, there's, like, a mess in the hallway. And she's like, I don't even want to look. She just goes right for the front door, escapes. And basically runs to the closest town, right? Says, you know, I need help. This and what happened? I'm going by myself. I can't spend another night. My husband's not back till tomorrow. And somebody's like, what? Where are you? You know, it's like, I'm new into here. We just moved in. Oh, you're that crazy couple about that haunted house? And she's like, what? It's like, yeah, the house that nobody wanted to buy. She's like, what did you say? It's like, yeah, that it's haunted. She goes, yeah, it's haunted? He goes, yeah. It's like, what the fuck? What do you mean it's haunted? Yeah, there was this horrific murder and this and that. And it was like during World War II, the Germans came and they took all these people there and they just shut them up in that house. And she's like, what the fuck? No. So she's like, I'm not going back.
I thought you'd have to disclose some shit like that.
No. And so then so she says she spends the night with like the people there in the town. Somebody takes her in. You see, you know, this poor girl pregnant and stuff. And then her husband comes the next day and he's like, where the hell is she? And then finally finds her into town and she's like, I'm not going back to the house. He's like, what do you mean? Yeah, the house is haunted, right? And she goes, what? You crazy? No. And he goes, don't worry, whatever. And I'm back. Let's go. We slept already. Thing it was fine. Okay. So sure enough, you know, whatever. She finally gets convinced and she can't sleep the first night. She's terrified and she's just listening the whole night, listening. She doesn't hear anything. Her husband's just snoring the whole thing. And then, whatever. And then the next day, and then that thing. And finally a week passes by, whatever, 2, 3 weeks, whatever. Everybody forgets about it, right? And then sure enough, you know, another time her husband is also, again, he keeps on traveling and stuff. And he's gone another night. And then yet again, she's by herself. And she hears, she wakes up and she's like, what the fuck? The same sounds. Boo. Like somebody's opening doors or this and that, like saying, and then it gets louder. And she's like, okay, I can't fucking take this. So she literally, like, you know, by this point, big belly, all that stuff, she's like climbing out through the window. And then she just, in the middle of the night, she runs to the town. She's like, I can't sleep in that house, not anymore. So her husband comes back, the same story. He tells her, you're fucking crazy. You're imagining things, baby. We bought this beautiful house. Don't worry. No, I don't want to be in this house. I'm never coming back. He's like, then trust me, there's nothing, you know. And he basically tells her, you know, I'm going to go. So she's like, well, you go by yourself. He goes there. Sure enough, nothing happens. So after the second day, third day, he begs her. Finally, she comes back and he's like, look, there's nothing happening. Right, and she's like, okay, but it's like, when she comes back, he tells her just like, I don't know, maybe an animal got in because there were things like, you know, moved around in the kitchen. She's like, okay, so he's like, probably an animal got in, and you know, and that's why you got all scared. Right. And anyway, so it goes on, and then. What's it called? Another time he has to travel for work, and she's like, "No fucking way, you're going. No thing, I'm not staying." And he's like, "Okay, whatever. Let's get somebody to stay with you." And they're like, nobody's thing. Finally, he calls his his father, right? And he's like, "Dad, can you stay? You know, with my wife? Just stay with her because she's scared. She says she's hearing things, all the stuff, and right?" And the father's like, "Okay, yeah, I guess I can stay, right?" So they go there. And she's like, no, I don't feel, you know, your father's older. I don't feel things. So the father's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's call the priest. Let's have him come tonight. He's going to bless the house. You know, there's any ghosts, we'll just release them. And he's just not taking it seriously and all that stuff. And, you know, the priest comes and they're all like chit-chatting, you know, eating something, you know, little snacks, having a coffee or whatever, tea at night, whatever it was that people did back in the 1950s Poland. And then they're hanging out and this and that, and everything seems to be okay. And then, they start talking about like, so, well, what was it that you heard? Because, even the priest is like, I heard that everybody's saying this house is haunted, right? And he's like, oh my God, even you knew about this? Like, he's like, well, yeah, everybody knew about this. That's why nobody wanted to stay here, right? And he goes, it's probably just, how it is, people's imagination. And while they're talking, sure enough, they start hearing the sounds, bang, bang. And it just comes down the hallway, and she's all, everybody's like, what the hell? So then, they tell the priest, they're like, Father, just go in there and bless the thing. And the priest is like, sure, yeah, I'm gonna go, yeah, sure. And he starts taking a few steps, and they're all just hiding down the thing, the little room that they were down the hallway, and they're like, the sounds are coming from the kitchen, right? Just go, Father, just go there, just face the ghost, tell them to leave.
That's a job.
Yeah, and that's sure enough, like after like a few seconds, the priest is just jets it out the front door. He's like, and they're like, what the fuck? So she's like, okay, I'm out of here. And then finally the father is like, his father is like, okay, wait, okay, there's got to be a rational explanation for this, don't worry. So he grabs a big stick that he had, and he's like, well, why do you need a stick if it's irrational? He goes, don't worry, just in case, probably some animal got in there. And then he goes in, she's just freaking out, it gets louder and louder, and suddenly, the father's walking, and she just peeks over, he makes his way to the kitchen. By this point, she sees that the kitchen doors are shaking and banging, and he just opens the door and bursts in there with that stick, and then it's just, quiet. She doesn't hear him. She just hears the banging. And then suddenly he starts screaming, hey! And she's like, what? Oh my God. So she's about to run, and he goes, come here, I want to show you something. She's like, what are you talking about? He goes, come. He's like, no, I'm not, I don't want to go in there. He's like, no, there's no ghost. Come, you got to see this. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So she finally is like, doesn't want to think, but he comes out, grabs her. He's like, come, trust me, there's no ghosts, but I want to show you something. He takes her into the kitchen, and she says, literally, the paintings are crooked and things are falling off the shelves, and like the cabinets are still shaking. And this guy grabs he has this stick that he like grabs it, like these two branches of the stick, and the stick starts shaking. And he's like walking. He goes, you got a spring, like a live well right under the freaking house. Some idiot built a house right on top of this. But the good news, you don't have to dig for a well. You're gonna have plenty of spring clear water or whatever in your house. It is, and then she's like, what? He goes, yeah. Every time the full moon comes around or something, every time of the month, what happens is that the water in the spring, I guess the pressure builds up, and that causes the whole thing to shake. And because the kitchen's built right on top of it, it shakes the walls, shakes the things, and it happens every month. And she's like, what? And then sure enough, the husband comes back, they tell him, and they literally end up like building like a well underneath the house so they can pump all this water. And they end up actually selling the water to a bottle company, and they make like millions of dollars or whatever it was that they made back in the day.
I see you going there.
Yeah, and everything ended well.
That was a good ending, yeah. Literally ended well.
Yeah. So again, was it true, or was it one of the bullshit stories of my grandpa? I don't know, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if 99.9% of these ghost stories are just nothing more but just things that people make up in their mind, while in reality something physical is happening. You know what I mean? It's like the stairs settling in my house.
Yeah, exactly. There's usually there's an explanation for everything, especially like most ghost stories. Like like I said, it's very rare where, unless multiple people experience it at once, then it's very rare where you can't really explain it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. You got any stories?
I think those are all the ones I can think off the top of my head for me. I don't get too many paranormal activities around my, like, to be honest, like I almost wish I would see some crazy shit, just because then I would know for sure if it exists or not. Okay,
but like I was asking you before then, so do you believe that maybe there is something, this underlying intelligence, or like you were basically, that there's more to you than just this physical body that you have, that there's something more, and when you die, it's still gonna exist, that maybe not you as a person, but that consciousness, I don't know, that because if you believe in that, then you got to believe that there's something.
I think it's very likely. I think it's more likely than not that there's something beyond this.
Like, you remember I told you, I think once, on one of the podcasts here, we were talking, and I was talking about this guy who's like a mystic from India. And he's like one of the very few people that I can listen to where he just makes sense. Like when he talks, it's Sadhguru.
I don't remember the name.
I think I was. Remember, I was talking about Will Smith, that he like traveled to India.
Yeah. Okay, so that's who he. Okay.
And I think Will Smith did an interview with him once, something like that. Anyways, he has a book. It's called. Hold on, let me look it up really quickly. I think it's. Oh yeah, it's called "Death: An Inside Story," and then the subtitle is called "A Book for All of Those That Shall Die." It's a very cool book. I actually got it and I read it,
and it was good.
It's very good. It explains a lot of things. Now, I'll tell you this: the book starts off very scientifically because he teaches this whole inner engineering, which he says is one of the ancient sciences, but he calls it. And I got interested about him because of all this. Like I said, what happened to me, I started looking into like meditations and all these things. What's interesting is how he kind of breaks down everything and kind of makes it, he doesn't make it like so it's no longer like this, oh my God, big mystical, whatever, big deal. He just kind of tells you straightforward, this is how it is. Mm-hmm. Now I'll tell you that book, without ruining the book too. It's a very interesting book, entertaining, a lot of cool stories in it. Mm-hmm. Now towards the end, the book really, and he kind of does warn you, he says, this is stuff that can't be proven, will never be proven because it's beyond the realm of the physical, but it's kind of based already on what I've been talking about, all that stuff, and he gives you some of these stories that kind of make you go, all right. And at the end of the day, you just kind of go, well, I either believe it, or I just think it's all bullshit, but, or maybe it's just a story just to kind of try to teach us a lesson, like a parable or something, but it's things. So the way he talks about it, though, I like it how, in a nutshell, he says this. He says, we're all of life form starts off as a non-material, and then this material world that we see is nothing more than like you could say like a simulation that we're living in, like all of life forms are living through. So it feels very real to us, just like a dream can feel very real. But it's in reality, this life is not as physical as we think. But what's interesting is he says that whenever somebody dies, and there's different things that can happen to people, or the soul, as you would believe it, or whatever, or this underlying intelligence, depending on how the person died and all this stuff, and whether that's true or not. Again, maybe it's just complete bullshit, or maybe he's just telling these stories to teach people something. But the interesting thing he said, leave the world of the dead, or of the ghosts to the ghosts and to the dead. You worry about life. He says, because if you really want to find out about what happens in afterlife, you can go right away. You can take a very quick thing. There's lots of ways to go and end it, and you can go see for yourself. But he said, otherwise, all it's just going to be is just stories. But he says, but without a doubt, there's, and he says, most stories that people claim that they've seen or heard things are bullshit. But he says there are, he calls them, he doesn't call them the ghosts. He calls them all the disembodied beings. Mm-hmm. So he says that they're literally just beings, but they've just shed their physical body. And he says, and since they're disembodied, all it means is that they cannot do anything to you. So these stories where people would say the ghost grabbed them or chased them or killed somebody, these are all just little stories, because he says the disembodied beings are everywhere around us, and they don't even know where they are most of the time, because depending on how conscious, I guess, the person was when they passed away, they might not even know what's happening to them. But he said, they're living in their own little dream, their own little reality, he's saying. Right. But they're disembodied, and they cannot do anything to you. And he said there's certain disembodied beings that have such strong life force within them. And he says especially people who like died way before their he calls it, I think, the prana, which is like the life force that keeps your physical body going. He says if you die, let's say, of a disease or an accident very early on before you've used up all your life force, then those disembodied beings can sometimes almost appear, especially to certain people, like they can see them or sense them. But he said, but that's all. They cannot do anything to you, they cannot hurt you. So he said, you do not have to be scared of this, or, so
they don't like throw you across rooms like they do in the movies.
No, exactly. So he says that there's nothing like that you have to be worried about and all the stuff. And he said, and if you don't believe it, then don't worry about it, because they won't ever touch you. But when you die, when you're dead, then, he says, and you're conscious enough when you die, then you'll see basically what this whole life, whatever, after death is, kind of thing. So it's very interesting. But the book has a lot of interesting stories and a lot of, like I said, very entertaining book. But this is just like, yeah, this is just one sort of gist of it. And I think so I found that interesting. I remember also, like I like I told you that experience I had, and I was watching this video of a guy who says he was channeling something, and then I followed instructions. Well, I remember afterwards I watched a bunch of these people who claimed they were like channeling ghosts or even aliens. There was one guy, and a lot of it is just like, I mean, just ridiculous to the point where you want to like burst out laughing, right?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of these people are scam artists, so it's hard to find the real from the fake because of that.
So speaking of scam artists, so there was a guy, well, TV show that my wife was watching called The Hollywood Medium. Have you heard about it? It's with this guy. No. Tyler Henry is his name.
Never heard of him.
He's a young guy, young, like I think when he started, I think he was like a teenager. And he claims, I think that him or his mom noticed that when he was already like 5 or 6 years old, that he could like sense dead people or ghosts. And I was like, yeah, whatever. My wife's like, no, but watch this with me. I'm like, whatever. It's this. And he lives in Hollywood, and he does like readings with different people. Like I think the first episode my wife showed me was like Kim Kardashian or one of the Kardashians. And I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be really. Oh, okay. So and I thought this is gonna be really stupid. Well, it kind of pulled. Let's just say the show is very well produced. But I didn't believe it, right? I was like, the guy does a good talk and all that stuff, but I think he just think. Even though he brought up some things with every celebrity that I watched, he brought some things that I was like, oh man, that would be a little hard to know. But then I'm like, unless the celebrity's in on it, and they're in a TV show,
you'll never know that.
Exactly. But then the weird thing was, I remember my wife showed me this episode with, remember that singer? I think Alan Thicke. Yeah, I remember him. Well, he is a Canadian actor, right? Alan Thicke. But his son is a singer, right?
Yeah, you're talking about
I forget his name. He had that.
Yeah, Alan Thicke was the dad.
Yeah, and then he did that song with.
I remember with Murrell.
Yeah, exactly. He had that big famous song. Anyway, so his father, Alan Thicke, he used to live in LA, I guess. One of those Canadian traders that moved down to Hollywood. But anyways, he was on that show, and this kid, Tyler Perry, basically started, Tyler Henry, started talking to him, and he's being just interviewed and this and that, and he says something about, you had some relatives in your family that died, because he starts like, I sent somebody, I think it's because the kid is interesting too. Like the more you watch it, that he never gets into a lot of specifics, and he says, it's not like I can see or hear somebody. It's just I get this feeling, and it kind of started reminding me of what I went through. He goes, like this feeling in like this, he says, the ether around, and it's sort of like, and it's based on the vibrations that you yourself or certain objects people would give out. And he says, in your family history, you've had a lot of untimely deaths, like people who died really young. And then he goes, I guess he goes, but it only happens to males. And then he goes like, you can watch the episode. It's like, I think on YouTube probably people uploaded it. So with Alan Thicke, and he goes like, yeah, something like that. Like, yeah, he confirms it, and then he basically says, I'm getting like a sense. I think like a warning, like maybe your relatives are saying you gotta go check yourself out. Go check yourself out for your heart. You have thing. And he goes, no, I just had like a physical done. I'm totally fine. My heart is fine. He goes, no, they're saying that there's like a reoccurring problem in your family. You gotta check your heart out, because something's not right. And literally this guy, like I said, he's a famous actor. He goes, no, I'm not gonna, the Alan goes like, I'm whatever, it almost looked like he was throughout this whole process of this whole interview, this kid, he starts like not believing this kid. He goes, he finally, I think he kind of pretty much like told him like, kind of like, let him know like, okay, lay off of this kid. Like there's nothing going on. And he's like, no, I'm totally fine. I'm totally healthy. His wife is with him. And then his wife is even like, oh, well, maybe you should go check. He goes, no, I'm totally fine. Like I feel fine. And that. The guy dies like a month later of a heart attack.
You say he died of a heart attack.
Yeah, the actor died. You can check it out. Nobody knew this was going to happen. And this kid was like pushing on it.
That's crazy.
When I watched that, I was like, what the fuck? And then I remember he did a follow-up reading with his wife. his wife by this point is like, Tyler, I believe you. That's why I wanted, him. But she says like, because I am the one who invited you, because my husband, I know he never believed in it, this and that, but this was thing, and and he just didn't believe it. He just didn't. And all of a sudden, he just had a freak thing. It turns out he had like a hereditary, whatever, genetic problem with his heart. And I was like, what the fuck?
That's crazy.
So after watching that, I kind of started thinking maybe either that kid got really lucky, but then what's the chance that he would go on television, keep on telling this guy about his heart to the point where the actor was kind of like annoyed, and then, bam, the guy dies. And so that's when I was like a little bit like, even though I don't quite believe in this Tyler Henry guy, I kind of was like, I don't know, maybe.
That's tough to explain, yeah, because that's tough to explain away. Yeah. So, yeah, wow, that's crazy.
So did you have any, because you said you sometimes would get this hunch, did you have any like then things where it's almost like you can foretell the future?
Nothing like that, no. For me, it was more just like intuition, just like, you should or shouldn't do this, but nothing like where I feel like I know what's going to happen. That I haven't had.
So you don't know the details. You just know like, okay, something's not right kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's more just like a feeling like, okay, it feels like something bad is going to happen. You should probably stay home, that type of thing. But never anything like where I'm like, okay, I feel like this specific thing is going to happen for sure.
But why do you think that is? You think it's possible? I don't know. Like like what is it? I think
it's hard to tell. And I feel like something like that.
Some people believe in like their guardian angel is warning them. You believe it's something like that, or some ghost warning you? Or?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I feel like some people think like what you said, where they think it's like something beyond what we can understand. Like it's like a actual intuition, or it could just be from my life experiences. Maybe, even if I'm not remembering certain experiences, maybe, certain scenarios, bring up thoughts of me. I don't know, like maybe bad experiences that I'm not remembering is actually what's triggering me not like thinking I shouldn't go to these certain events or do certain things.
So you think it's your mind that's drawing conclusions of what could possibly happen kind of thing?
Exactly, because just from when you live life, you get certain experiences of like certain people or certain situations or certain things, and you live and you learn, right? So it could just be that as well, but I don't really know.
Interesting. My wife has this thing where she also doesn't know details, but she'll have like a feeling sometimes, and it happened multiple times already. Like, and since before I met her, but she told me, but since I met her too, where she would sometimes be like she feels like, oh, like somebody's in danger or something thing, and then sure enough she finds like, oh, her friend or somebody passed away, and it's like, oh shit, or like there was a case where, I think she had like a dream or something. She woke up like somebody's getting robbed, and like her friend or something. And then she calls, and it then literally just happened. And her friend's like, we got carjacked and this and that, and like in Ecuador, and like way, like not even close to where we are here. But she would just call them and be like, what do you mean? Yeah, and it's just like weird. Like when they happen like over and over a few times, I told my wife, like, it's like you have this weird psychic kind of thing. It's just she doesn't.
I have an aunt who's similar to that, to what you just explained, which is different from what I was talking about. So I was more talking about just like a feeling I would get for certain things, like a little bit of intuition, but like nothing crazy. But from what like you're talking about, I did have an aunt who she had like something similar to that, where like as an example, before my mom's father passed, she just had I don't know if it was a feeling or what, but she was trying to convince my mom to basically come back to Barbados to visit my grandfather. And she was like pressing for it more than she normally does. And so my mom was like, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to come visit you guys and, stay for a few weeks or whatever. And my granddad ended up passing away like not long after. And if she hadn't gone, then she would have missed out on that. So yeah, it's weird.
Did she ever explain why she had that feeling?
No, it's just something that she like. It's happened with her before, like similar things like that. So it's just something like what you said, how like your wife would just get these like feelings of either something's gonna happen or You know, like it's nothing like specific that I know of. I've never really actually like asked her, you know, exactly what it is that goes through her mind when it happens. But yeah, it's similar to what you were saying.
A lot of weird things. I mean, there was a story my mom told me to once where it was something. She was a small girl, and she lost something. I think she was playing with a kid, and then the kid took like a toy from. I think it was a ball, and then basically something happened. The kid moved away, and then later on, my mom like really wanted it, and she thinks she had a dream that this boy was, telling her in her dream like, oh, I put your ball here, like I hid it away, like whatever, so and so place, like you go to this the top floor in our apartment building, and you'll see this little closet there, and then it's thing. And my mom said that she literally, it was a dream to her, so she just had a dream that she saw the kid. So next day she woke up, she goes, and then she said she came down, she was so proud, she showed her mom, she's like, look, Mom, I found the toy, right? It's like, oh my God, all this time, well, how'd you find it? She goes, my friend told me, right? He goes, what do you mean your friend told me? And he goes, yeah, it was in my sleep. And my mom said that only years later she found out that friend, it was an accident, and my grandma didn't want to tell her. He died. That
really?
little boy died. Yeah. So when they told her that he moved away, it was gone. It was actually because he died, and they never wanted to tell her. And then she had a dream. And he literally told her where the thing. So I was thinking, well, I mean, it could have just been that she had a dream and just coincidence, it happened to be right there. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he really did die and he really felt like how strong my mom felt about that toy. And he literally like connected with her on her dream and told her. I mean, it's just, again, you can explain it so many different ways, but.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because that's like what you were saying, like similar to like what your wife has, my aunt, like where it's like, they have these either feelings or intuitions of things that are going to happen. They trust it and they act on it, and then it happens and you're like, okay, well, was this a coincidence or is this like a thing that like an ability? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think it's an ability or do you think it's more of a coincidence?
I think you got to go on a case by case, kind of basis, and just, like I said, like I think in some,
it's a possibility that it's an ability.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that guy Sadhguru, he said in his book, like there's a lot of stories out there, majority, I think it's probably like 99% of these stories that are just complete BS. Like I said, those stories my grandpa told me, maybe they're really cool stories, but maybe they're completely BS. I have no way of checking it anyways, but every so on, there's like things like for example, like that, the Hollywood medium guy that who predicted the guy's death. Like, I mean, there's always a chance he could have been, but it's like, why is it out of all these people he spoke to and all these celebrities, he never told anybody like that? He almost never foretells people. He just tells them little things that he finds out about their family's past or whatever. And sometimes like I was like, well, they're probably in on it. They're just acting like they didn't know this, and then they whatever. But in this case, he was literally telling him like got this feeling like you should, like they're telling you, or you should just check this because something within your family, there's thing. And then the guy dies of heart attack. And he claimed in the interview he just had like a physical down. He's totally fine, not to worry. He doesn't have any health problems. Like, and it's like, wow, okay. So when shit like that happens, that's why I think it's like those 1 or even less than 1% of stories. I think there's something to it, but what it is, I can't explain it. It's like that experience I had. I think maybe I did experience something, but what it is that I experienced, I couldn't freaking tell you.
Right.
That's just the thing. So if you guys joined this episode here because of Galga TV because you wanted to find some answers, well, I'm sorry, I don't have the answers.
We have zero.
Zero. Like I would say, the older I get, the more questions I have than answers.
That's the thing I was going to say. If anything, we probably just created more questions.
Yeah.
So. But that's okay. That's life, and that's the thing about life. You know what? If you had the answers to everything, life would be boring.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sometimes a little mystery it keeps things interesting, right?
Yeah, it makes you search for answers, and it gives you, a reason to keep yourself on your toes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyways, those are all my supernatural ghost kind of thing stories that I know.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Like I said, I don't have too many. Just like kind of like small instances that you can kind of say, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Nothing too crazy. Like I've always like wanted to kind of have like a real experience. So it's like I said, so I would be able to kind of pick which side of the fence I'm on in terms of like, does this exist? Does this not exist? But I don't know. I haven't had any. That's why sometimes when I hear like these crazy stories, I'm just like, how come nothing like this has ever happened to me? That's why, like, if there was a such thing as ghosts, I think that's why it's like I have a hard time sometimes believing in it. Is like, how would they pick and choose when to like appear and when to not appear, and like who to appear to, and you know what I mean? Like,
well, I guess my kind of thing is I'm almost leaning to what, like, not that I believe everything that guy Sadhguru says, but especially when I read that book about the but even when you hear some of those interviews, like he kind of hints sometimes, like people ask him about that.
they ask him about why only certain
about
people
like afterlife or what happens when you die.
Yeah.
And most of the time he has this kind of a cheeky kind of answer, like, like, hey, why don't you go find out? You can go right away. But what I find interesting is that the way he explained it in the book is kind of like I said, is he says that they're basically, you got to think of them as disembodied beings. They just shed their thing. And he said, if there's a ghost, like what traditional culture would call it a ghost, he says it's a disembodied being that doesn't even know that they're disembodied. Like they still, in their head, they still think they're alive. And they're going over it in their dream. You know what I mean? It's like, again, because he says at the end of the day, this reality is nothing more but a dream. But it's like a collective dream. So it says, so they're in their own little dream world, and they don't know that they're thing, but when their life force is still so thriving, so alive, but they don't have a physical body, then people, but he says only certain people who have a certain intuition or certain, like, I guess this ability, like the guy, the Hollywood medium, that they'll be able to sense it. And sometimes they can almost like physically see it. But he said that's it. It's not like they're disembodied. They're not physically able to touch you or affect you, right? That's the thing. So I kind of think of it like that way. Like I said, most of them are just bullshit stories. It's like my aunt, who I love her dearly. If she's watching this, I'm not saying you're bullshit. I love you, but but I know that her imagination runs wild, and she gets very scared. And especially when you're scared, like like when you had the sleep paralysis. You kind of going, oh my God, like me too. And then it's only until I started understanding what's happening to me that I'm able to calm my mind and my imagination and kind of look at clearly what's happening. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm paralyzed. Sleep paralysis. That's totally fine. Right? It's not the end of the world. And I was able to overcome it that way. But so I think that's what's happening to most people. I think it's just they get paralyzed. They get, like that story my grandpa said, the guy gets, his jacket gets stuck on something, a piece of wood, and he thinks a ghost, or that guy grabbed him, right? So
yeah, it like what we said earlier, just it makes things make sense for you. Exactly. If it's not making sense. So
but I think
if you're something tugging on you in a grave in the dark, you're gonna think something is tugging on you in the grave in the dark.
Exactly, yeah. So and then the rest of your imagination fills in, and that's it. It's gone, right? So that's what I'm saying, that like I think most of the stories that's what it is. It's just people's imagination starts interpreting and adding things. But I think there is this less than 1%. It's like that, that episode we did about the aliens, UFOs. I think most of them are also bullshit stories, but it's the very few that then, like now you have your military people admitting to that they said that you can't explain it any other way. And that's when you can kind of go, shit, maybe, it's there, but
it's those one or two stories that seem like, okay, this is too good to not be real.
Exactly.
Like there's almost a sufficient amount of evidence that you could be like, okay, there's something to this one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I think most of it is BS, but there's very few. I think that there's something to it. What it is, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a possibility.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. All right, let's finish it up, maybe.
Yeah.
We can talk about this endlessly. So maybe another episode.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing with these kind of topics is there's no real end to it, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to prove it one way or the other.
Yeah. So, in between now and the next ghost episode we do, maybe some weird shit will happen to you, and then you can tell us a story.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have like some crazy interesting story, end up going viral with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I feel like by now, like I would have attracted some sort of like situation, just because like, they say like the more that you actually like open yourself up to it, the higher the chances of yourself having an experience. But I don't know. So far, nothing.
Maybe it's getting ready. Maybe it's gonna be a big one. It's gonna make national news.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. All right, man. Good talking to you as always.
All right, you too. So I see you in the next one.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Peace.